February 3rd. I call this workshop and special meeting of Kingsville Independent School District to order. We will have roll call. Joe Mireles. Here. Brian Kufal. Here. Martin Chapa. Here. David Garcia. Here. Delma Salinas.
Here.
Jacob Perez. Here. And Joseph Ruiz. Here. Let the record show that there is a quorum of board members present and that this meeting has been posted in accordance with Government Code Chapter 551, State of Texas Open Meetings Act. We will move to a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We now move on to public, item number 4, public participation. Do we have anyone who wishes to address the board?
Yes, sir, we have Elizabeth Ramos. She's community in reference to the school improvement plan.
Thank you, Ms. Ramos.
Good afternoon. I got it. Good afternoon, Superintendent, Board of Trustees. If y'all want to clock me at the 5 minutes, I'm going to use it all. Just let me know when I'm done, because I'm going to keep going. Okay. I do want to bring up, while you do have this workshop, that at the last CNI meeting, administration didn't mention the $100 million in state aid for our 14 coastal counties to offset windstorm and property insurance costs for districts. So when you talk about switching contracts today, make sure you keep that in mind. I am for consolidating these campuses. I think we know why the board unfortunately allowed their one employee to spend and spend and spend till there was no end in sight, and we're here now. I also warned at the time to the president, which was Brian Kufal, that we needed to have organization, accountability, and oversight when it came to these funds. I warned him that we're going to run out of ESSER, and after that, we'll have nothing left over. So it's even been written in state documentation, the Legislative Budget Board of the Texas Management and Performance Review in December of 2022. Do you guys remember that? I know Ruiz and Chapa won't, maybe Morales. Do you remember that report, you guys? It's about 122 pages long. Now, I love reading. I love reading law, policy. I don't know if any of you guys you do, although that's your job. So I took it to heart, and I wanted to make sure that the district was doing things right. But I was, brick blocked by certain people on the board to get anything done when it comes to making sure that we're servicing our students and communities the correct way. And I will just reiterate here for the next 4 minutes or however long I have left to remind you of some of those things that the Texas Management and Performance Review Board stated. Here we go. And I believe there were a couple things on that were so-called fixed by the superintendent, but now that we have a new superintendent, those also need to be reviewed. So I'm going to say, read it all again, you guys, because everything in that word for word matters, because it's no longer pertaining to anything this district does anymore. That makes sense. It will make sense once you read it again. Kingsville ISD lacks a facilities master plan. The district's facility planning process is reactive and focuses on immediate problems and short-term solutions. Without a comprehensive facilities master planning process, the district also has no defined method for prioritizing or budgeting for facility issues. See where I'm going here? It doesn't matter what kind of school improvement plan you put in place. You guys don't have the education, the foresight, the organization to make sure that these plans are being implemented properly, that are being updated properly, that are being changed whenever necessary. So I'll keep going so you have this in mind. Additionally, the district lacks a comprehensive multi-year strategic planning process that sets measurable goals, addresses the long-term needs of all areas of the district, and directs the use of district resources. The lack of an effective process for long-term planning to guide its campuses department and programs reduces the district's ability to address unforeseen events, allocate resources to achieve goals, or establish accountability standards. And that's why we're in F, and that's why we're in the hole, and that's why you guys are just going to every meeting saying yes, 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 and not, making sure you're doing the right thing. KISD also lacks the operational plans, including cybersecurity plan, a technology disaster recovery plan, and a vehicle replacement plan. KISD lacks an effective process to develop and administer its district and campus improvement plans. So this is where you got your district improvement plans after this, then your campus improvement plans, and no one shows up to those, and they check off the box as if that's participation, and nothing really gets done. Some campuses do not comply with TEA or board policy related to campus level committees such as CIP, PIP, and what was before SHAC, before you got rid of it. KISD does not have an effective inventory management process to track administrative and instructional devices. It does not have a help desk system to process and does not support campus effectively. So KISD's help desk system and its processes do not support campus effectively. Just ask anybody who tries to call around to find out who they need to talk to, the run around. You guys have not established expectations and measures for food service program performance. You board members lack a clear understanding of your roles and responsibilities. Board members lack an understanding of various board operations, which inhibits effective stewardship of the district. Just keep reading it. You'll see everything you don't do is on every single page and every single paragraph.
Thank you, Ms. Ramos. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the board?
No, sir.
If there's no objections with the board, I move that we switch up our agenda and move executive session now so we can get some legal consultation before we proceed. Does anyone from the board have an issue with that? No? Okay, so then we will actually move to item number 7 and enter into closed session. The board will enter into closed session in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.074 to deliberate and consider the following: consultation with legal counsel regarding legal and personal matters. No action will be taken until we return to open session. We are entering into closed session at 5:38 p.m. We now return to open session and take necessary action on matters at which the board may discuss in open session, upon which action may be taken. We are returning to open session at 6:37 p.m. There being no action that needs to be taken, we'll
Mr. President, we're going to resume. I believe the board is going to revisit number 4, public participation after executive session.
but there are no action for executive.
Oh, no, sir, I'm sorry. No, Mr. President.
Very good. So now we are going to revisit item number 4, public participation. My understanding, we have someone else that wishes to address the board.
Yes, sir. John Temple, community, in reference to the consolidation.
Thank you, Mr. Temple.
Okay.
It's 5 minutes, sir. I'll be keeping.
Okay. Well, I'm totally for the reconfiguration, absolutely for it. But my question is, once it's reconfigured, what's going to change to keep us on the path that we're going on? Something you can reconfigure 10 times, but if nothing happens, besides that, it's still going to be the same, even if you reconfigure. And I was just kind of curious to know if there, and you probably do, but I was just wondering, is there a plan to address that part of it? Because that to me is the biggest part of the reconfiguration. And I also saw, and I can't remember where I saw this, but I read it, and it said in the last 4 years, another like 500 kids have left. I don't know if I read that in the paper. I don't know exactly where I read that, but I mean, that's a bunch, considering plus the 1,000 that we lost several years ago. I mean, that's a tremendous amount of kids that have moved, to different places. And, whenever, you might have the plan, and I hope that you do, but I'd like to see it, or hear about it or read about it once it happens. And I was also just kind of curious about, and I know it can't be helped, because when you reconfigure 5 into 3, and I'm pretty sure you've done some preliminary looking at it, like how many people are going to be, out of a spot. I mean, I understand that you can't keep 5 buildings of people when you only have 3 open. I mean, I get that altogether, but I was just wondering, what the plan is for those people that may be displaced. And that was my main 2 points. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. We now move on to item number 5. Kingsville ISD Board of Trustees will conduct a board workshop to discuss the following. Item 5A, property and casualty insurance renewal. Dr. Pitts can be found on pages 3 through 34. 3 through 34, Dr. Pitts.
Thank you, Board President, Superintendent, members of the board. Our property and casualty insurance covers the buildings and the property that are in the buildings. That's on the property insurance side. And then on the casualty insurance side, we have everything from general liability to professional educator liability, auto, and some smaller things like cyber as well. We have the renewal that is coming up March the 1st. All the information that we give tonight is just a report and to receive feedback from the board. We will be bringing this item back in 2 weeks for board approval. And I'm going to invite up Chase Carlisle from Carlisle Insurance to talk a little bit about the renewal quote and the options.
Thank you, Dr. Pitts. Good evening, everybody. Happy to be here to run through this real quick. We got a lot of numbers, so just everybody freaks out about all these numbers. The key numbers to key in on are the yellow items. Those are anything that changed from what we currently have in place right now. So if we look at the far left column, last year the district was insuring about $183 million worth of building and contents assets, and we were buying $15 million worth of coverage on those assets. The middle column's in option 1 and the far right column's in option 2. The difference between those two options, option 1 being identical to what you purchased last year, option 2 being a double in the amount of insurance we buy, which would be a $30 million loss limit. If we scroll on down, deductible wise, the only changes in deductibles that we're seeing this year is in the wind and hail deductible. Again, last year we had a 1%. That remains 1% this year. But last year we had a minimum of a $500,000 deductible at that 1%. This year it's lowered to $100,000. So benefit to the district there as well. General liability, auto fleet liability, everything there remained identical to what we had last year. No changes there. Employee benefits liability, again, no changes there. No changes in the ELL, the educator legal liability, which is the school board liability. When we get to the cyber loss and liability, we did get a benefit there. Last year, the district in the PCAP program, we had $1 million worth of coverage. That has been increased to $2 million worth of coverage program wide. However, on the ransomware, we had $1 million, and the program did decrease that to $500,000 limits there. So a little bit of a deficit there, but overall, we've got $2 million versus $1 million of coverage. When I was here about a month ago and we were talking, I sat here and I guaranteed that we'd see about a $200,000 savings. Unfortunately, we were not able to achieve that. It's $280,000 this evening if we do nothing and remain exactly with what we had last year. The option 2, which provides the $30 million versus the $50 million worth of coverage, that one still gives the district a savings of about $174,000, which will represent about an 18% reduction in your property and casualty insurance expenditures this year. However, again, doing nothing, we're going to see about a 30% savings in the property and casualty insurance again this year. Again, as I described last year and again earlier towards the end of last year when I was here, the property insurance market has softened, meaning rates are coming down. There's more options. There's competition in the market. It's allowing us to pin the carriers against each other and have better negotiations with those carriers, which is what we're seeing. On the property insurance side of things, you'll notice there was about a 30% rate reduction there. And then on the casualty side of things, the PCAP program actually came in and did give about a 39 to 40% rate reduction on the casualty lines as well. So overall, I think it was a win. I, again, appreciate the trust in us and the partnership over the last 20, 25 years. And I think it worked out in everybody's favor this year. Be happy to entertain any questions. Oh,
The flood.
yeah, one more thing. So on that cost summary that you looked at just a second ago, there's a line item in there for that's labeled NFIP flood coverage. That's the flood insurance that we buy through the FEMA program, the government program that's been suspended for the time being because the government shut down. But nonetheless, it'll go back in effect. Currently, the district buys these flood insurance policies through the NFIP program in the tune of about $70,000 on these specific properties. One of the things that we have recommended, we have discussed with Dr. Pitts, is maybe identifying some of these buildings that we don't necessarily feel that we have a flood risk at. They're all in what we consider a flood zone X, so not necessarily a high hazard zone, but do have potential of flooding at some point, just depending on how much rain we receive, mainly in a named storm type of event. It's always been our recommendation that, being in the community and living here for a number of years, some people probably have a good idea of where we have low-lying areas, where we have drainage issues within the community, that maybe the storm sewage drainage has not been improved. That would be maybe a concern, but maybe discussing these either tonight or whenever we may want to do that, and identifying if there's still a need to actually buy all these flood insurance policies. If we feel that, for instance, the admin building is not susceptible to flooding, we haven't seen any flooding in the last 15, 20, 25 years, then maybe that's an area that we do not purchase and like to do self-insure on that type of coverage. The premiums there are associated, for the most part, it's between $4,500 per building upwards to $6,500, just depending on the size of the building. But that is open for discussion. I also recommended to him, if there's some desire to maybe go to that 30 million loss limit that we provided as option 2, maybe the board says, hey, we want to self-insure more on the flood insurance here, which is costing about $70,000. The difference between option 1 and option 2 was about 100,000. So we could self-insure here, save the 70 here, apply it to option 2, and get another $15 million of windstorm coverage and fire coverage for our facilities, which is probably the higher risk. And it would cost about $30,000 net difference in that if we were to do that. The other issues that we did bring up, and I think you guys have a copy of the big packet, but I know there's some discussions, it's not maybe popular discussions, but about closing some campuses. And so the administration asked us to provide some options on changing the coverages on those facilities should the community and the board elect to do that. So just for reference, the discussions have been had, or as far as I'm concerned, bringing Clayburgh back on and taking Pettis and Harrell offline, right? So in order to do that, right now we have Clayburgh listed as an actual cash value basis, meaning that the insurance company, should we have a loss, they're not going to pay us to replace that building. They're going to pay us what the actual cash value of that building is. Probably not much coverage there, but that's how we've insured it in the past, just because we've looked at it as something that's not of useful value for the district right now. So why would we expend insurance dollars on that? Now that we know we might be using the building again, the recommendation would be to move it from actual cash value to a replacement cost value. So should something happen, we have full insurance on that building so we can make the repairs, the replacement, and get kids back in those buildings. Taking the other two down from replacement costs to the actual cash value, the net difference in the premium on option 1 or option 2 would be a reduction of about $10,000 in premium, just so you guys are aware of that. If we brought Clayburgh on and took Harrell and Pettis off. Does that make sense?
I was gonna ask that. I was like,
Okay.
I do have a question. When is when do these policies start?
The effective date, which is column 2, shows you the effective dates
Yeah,
of
so
those.
I had a question about that. Why don't they not
Great
align
question.
to a fiscal year? Why March on this random?
Yes, sir. So did I lose this here? You still got the mic?
Test. I think
Maybe it's just me. I don't know. So back when we were in the softened property market, we used to have flood insurance built in the property insurance program. When we got in that hard market, that was one of the things that carriers pulled out, was the flood insurance portion of the program. So we elected to go out and buy the separate NFIP FEMA policies, which is what these are. The reason you see 331 is because when you buy a new FEMA policy or NFIP policy, there's a 30-day waiting period before that policy goes into effect. And so that's why you see most of these are 331. It was 30 days after the 3/1 renewal when that coverage went into play. The 11/4s, those are probably older policies. I'm not sure where those dates.
I think one of the questions was why is the insurance renewal cycle not in line with our fiscal cycle, September to?
Was that your question? I didn't answer that question. Sorry about that. We generally, all of our coastal schools, we renew on 3/1. We want to renew the property insurance for a coastal community school prior to hurricane season. We don't want to try to renew $190 million worth of assets in the middle of hurricane season, because either we have a storm that's come through and now we have a loss and none of the insurance companies want to jump on, no pun intended, but a burning building, or we have a storm out in the Gulf and we cannot bind our renewal policies. So years ago, we took all these coastal community schools and we moved them to a 3/1 date. It's at the beginning of the year. The reinsurance companies have issued their reinsurance contracts. These carriers just paid a lot of money for reinsurance, and so they've got to go make money off of it. So it's a good time to get rate negotiations. Versus at the end of the year, they have less insurance to sell. The price is higher.
So I have a question. I'm not sure if you, Mr. Carlisle, or Dr. Pitts can answer this. So House Bill 2 that provides $100 million, to coastal school districts to help offset some of the costs. What do we know about that? Can it help us with some of these premiums or?
Yes, it could help us with approximately 20%, getting reimbursed for 20%. So what the actual calculation, I haven't been privy to yet. I'm not sure if they worked it out, but the way that the bill was presented was that the districts on the coast, we pay a higher premium than the rest of the state. So just to give an example, let's say that that we pay $1 million, whereas the rest of the state pays $5 million for the same amount of building square footage and contents. The thought was that they were going to refund us 80% of the difference between those two. So they wouldn't refund us the whole amount. They wouldn't refund us the whole 500,000, but they would refund us 80% of that, which in this case would be 400,000. But in reality, there's probably not that much difference between us and the average. I do not know what the state average is or the exact mechanism, but yes, there is going to be some reimbursement from the state that we get as part of our foundation school payment once they work out their average and then what we are paying per square foot or per $1,000 of property value.
So that reimbursement will offset the premium costs that we're having to pay out.
We'll still pay the same premium, but we'll get additional revenue to cover some of that premium.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carlisle.
Yes, sir.
We now move on to item 5B, School Improvement Plan, Final Draft Presentation. Dr. Luz Martinez can be found on page 35 of your packet.
Is it that one? Is it that one? Okay.
I can make it.
Good evening, Board President, board members, members of the public, and staff. Here we are at the end of a journey that began several months ago where we started ideating what can we do to improve student outcomes in the district. So what you're going to see today is a very high-level brief summary of the school improvement plan that we are proposing to implement for school year 26-27. Before I begin, I would like to thank my team for their unwavering support, commitment, and hard work in helping devise this plan. Let's begin. We know that in Kingsville ISD, there is an urgent need for change. What kind of change? The change is systemic and transformational, and it is already happening in our schools. We are not waiting for next school year because we don't have time to wait. Our kids don't have time to wait. And so we have been very deliberate in looking at what do we need to do to make things happen in the district. We have two main areas of funding and academics that we have to focus on. And so when we look at what are those challenges, I would like to think of them as opportunities for excellence, right? You have heard me say before that we can dwindle in the negative and that will get us nowhere, but we have to move forward. We have to figure out how do we improve. And so in the spirit of that work, let's begin with budget. We all know that we have a 4.2 million budget deficit and we have to do better. Our fund balance is about $4 million, which according to the state of Texas, we need to have a healthy fund balance of about $8 million to be able to function on a 3-month basis to cover the cost of staffing and other bills that we have to pay in the district. We currently don't have that. So we are in a dire need to improve our financial status in the district. So although that is urgent and it is a pressing challenge that we have, my commitment to the Kingsville community and to the board is to ensure that we maintain focus on increasing student supported services. We're gonna try to stay away from cutting student-facing positions and services as much as possible. First and foremost, we must make every decision in alignment with the district and the priorities and the outcomes that we're seeking to achieve. Having said that, to move forward, we have to, and we are in the process and have been conducting comprehensive analysis of how do we spend money, how do we manage it, what practices do we engage in, what do we track, the systems, the expenditures. And I can already tell you that so far this first semester, we have saved a considerable amount of money because we have been very judicious about what we're spending. So I'm happy to say that we are taking this very seriously. Therefore, we continue to focus on decreasing the overall budget spending. We're seeking alternative funding sources, and I will talk about those in a few moments. But we have to right-size the district. So there will be the need for us to ensure that we're improving efficiency and strengthening student outcomes at the same time. One of the proposals that we're bringing to you is a consolidation of the elementary schools in order to maximize effectiveness and optimize financial resources. And I will discuss that in a moment as well. So these are the funding sources that we tap into when it comes to our financial areas. Grant funding is always there, and I will talk to you about some of the grants that we were awarded. We received notification yesterday. We have title funding that is always there, Title I, Title II, Title III, etc. And of course, we have the local funding and other sources of funding as well. And that composes the way that we receive money. This is where we are. We applied for several grants as we communicated to the board recently. And yesterday we were really excited to hear that we were awarded the LIFT grant, the LIFT add-on grant for PLC support, the blended learning grant, as well as the ADSI, the additional day school year grant. As you can see the totals there and the areas that it covers, we will be able to provide support for high quality instruction, materials, coaching, instructional walks, technical support, as well as acquire software and hardware to support the learning of students in K-8 through a program called ZEARN. And then, of course, having the summer school for targeted interventions because our students need more instruction, not less. So we're really, really excited that the Texas Education Agency supported us with this significant amount of funding for us to be able to implement some strategies as we focus on improving our schools. I will say as well that my team and I are highly committed to ensuring that coaching, support, calibration walks remain a strong focus of our strong instructional practices. And so these grants will permit us from providing additional support through partners, and we are required to selecting a partner that will come in and provide coaching, additional coaching and support to our teachers and leaders and school leaders. What we did not get was the School Action Fund. which was connected to the Accelerating Campus Excellence, excuse me, grant. We did not get that grant approved, and we did not get the grant approved for P-TECH either. And so those are two grants that unfortunately we were not selected for. And so we have had to pivot in our plan, and I will explain why in a moment. But this is our reality. And when I said that we have to improve our accountability ratings, this is where we have been the last 4 years. Our district has been F and D. And so we are in a dire need to make improvements. We also have to improve in our special ed area as well as other special populations. Happy to say that in our bilingual and ESL emerging bilingual status, we are meeting the requirements of the state. But the work continues, right? Because our schools are showing us a reality of low performance in the STAR test. We have 2 campuses that are in dire need of support. When I say that, that means they have been graded F for the last 3 years, and they are Gillette Middle School and Harvey Elementary School. We have discussed what that means in terms of the state. If a school achieves a 5 consecutive F ratings, the state takes over the district for 1 school. We have 2 schools that are currently in that situation. So we are working really hard to ensure that we don't get to that level. So what are we proposing as a matter of realignment is to move from 3 elementary schools to 2 elementary schools. Want to organize them by grade levels, where the students attending pre-K, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade will attend 1 school, namely Clayburgh Elementary School, and the students attending 3rd, 4th, and 5th will be attending Harvey Elementary School. That means that we are proposing to close Pettis Elementary School and Harold Elementary Schools. And those students, depending on the grade levels, will go to either Clayburgh or Harvey. We have worked with our transportation department, and we believe that we are able to make things work. We might have to adjust the schedule a little bit, but we believe that we will be able to make this arrangement work for transportation purposes, for example. But why are we proposing this? The key drivers for this recommendation, let's start with the fact that the overall performance of our 3 elementary schools for the last 3 years indicate ratings of D or F. There hasn't been meaningful improvement in student achievement or growth. We have had declining enrollment. And also we are dealing with a budget deficit of $4.2 million, which consolidating the schools will potentially save us between $1.5 and $2 million. The benefits of having grade level schools is all students are learning together, achieving together. We can focus more resources into one area rather than divide it amongst 3 schools. We have strong staff collaboration and support. We intend to have PLCs during the school day so teachers from alike grade levels can collaborate, look at data, internalize lessons, plan effectively, have conversations about assessment, data, etc. It provides better means to ensure higher levels of safety and supervision because age groups tend to do the same thing. So it will help with that. not to mention the operational efficiency and logistics that having a concentrated model of 2 schools instead of 3 will provide to the district. Now, I mentioned we did not get the Accelerating Campus Excellence grant approved, which is a travesty, and we are very taken aback by that. We were hoping that we would get it approved, but we did not. However, we believe in the ACE model. The ACE model was tied to the grant, but it's not just the grant. We will be able to implement the ACE model. It is a model that is being used in Texas successfully in several schools, and it is focused on improving student outcomes in a rapid function. And it is based on 5 pillars, and the 5 pillars are strategic staffing, instructional excellence, social emotional supports, extended learning during the school year or the summer, and supportive parent and community partnerships. Even though we did not get the grant to support the ACE initiative, we still think that implementing the ACE model is going to be the strategy for our school improvement reckoning, if you will. So, in order for us to do that, we have to propose a reduction in force be implemented, and you will consider that in a few moments. And this is presented to you as a program change that includes a reorganization or consolidation of 2 or more individual schools as stated in DFFB local policy. So the board will need to consider to institute the reduction in force based on program change. For this purpose, all elementary school teachers and staff will be required to reapply. We will implement the RIF policy as a program change, as I stated, and teachers will need to meet the effectiveness standards. This will also include all elementary and secondary campus administrators, to include principals and assistant principals, which will also be required to reapply and meet the principal effectiveness standards. For the elementary grades, teacher effectiveness levels are going to include these areas of focus: assessment data, that is how are students performing, achievement and growth; T-test data, their evaluations as stated in policy, current and the last 3 years; attendance, student data, currently, class observations, interview process, and principal recommendations. For administrators at both the elementary and the secondary campuses, we are looking for leaders who have school turnaround experience with a track record of improving outcomes for students. We are going to be looking at instructional leadership data. How is the campus doing? Attendance, T-test data, which is the evaluation instrument for administrators. How are they engaging the community and the campus? Supervisor's recommendation and an interview process. These are the criteria that we are proposing if this plan is approved by the board that follows the RIF implementation at the elementary campuses for teachers and at all levels, secondary and elementary, for principals and assistant principals. So the second tier of the ACE plan includes high quality instruction. And so when we talk about a plan is as good as a plan is, right? So what is the plan? The plan is that we are going to focus on high quality instruction, first teach. We're going to ensure that our teachers show up to the classroom having planned, internalized, and prepared to teach the content based on the high-quality instructional materials and resources that we're also proposing to the board to implement, and I'll talk about those in a moment. We will continue to provide instructional coaches from internal district leaders as well as external partners based on the grants that we received. And we will also engage in a deep level analysis of data to ensure that we're providing students with the appropriate interventions and teachers can make informed instructional decisions. As I stated, our intent is to also have PLCs during the school day for English and math so that we can strengthen in those areas. So for high quality instruction, we have to have high quality materials, no doubt. And we are proposing to the board tonight that they consider approving the Bluebonnet RLA for K through 5 instead of the current McGraw-Hill Wonders that we're using. The rest of the instructional materials are high quality materials already, and we will continue to utilize them. In addition to that, for the secondary levels, we are asking the board to approve Bluebonnet for Algebra 2 and Geometry, and everything else will stay the same because they are already considered high quality instructional materials, and we will continue to review adoptions as they are scheduled to be changed. We're also focusing on high quality assessments, and I have presented to the team the goal to implement NWA MAP beginning with school year 26 and 27, which includes 3 data points, BOY, MOY, and EOY. Beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year assessment. This will allow us to measure growth on a more regular basis. Teachers will receive reports that they can internalize and utilize to make informed instructional decisions. So we're not waiting until the end to do something about it. We can work our magic throughout the school year. This will help us create system for teachers to engage in data analysis that is data-driven and that is student-centered. The next step, or the next pillar in the ACE model is the social emotional support. That goes without saying that we need to include transition strategies to help students move from one school to the other, right? We recognize that when we close schools or reorganize schools, there is a level of loss, right? On the part of the families and on the part of the students as well. And our students will receive that support. The administrators of the campus will work with the students to ensure that we are providing the support that they need. Originally, we have presented to the board to reduce the counseling staffing ratios because the grant will have supported that. We don't have that opportunity, but we are still committed to ensuring that we keep the ratio as low as possible. And then we'll continue to review those at the secondary level as well. But we also recognize that professional learning on the most basic areas is a critical component of us moving forward. I have heard teachers say, if my classroom management is not tight, I can't teach, right? So we have to go back to the basics. So we are going to help our teachers with de-escalation techniques, relationship building, routines and procedures, and behavior management and social emotional areas. That's part of the plan and the strategy that is used when we talk about improving outcomes for students. With that, we're happy to say that thanks to the ATSI Additional School Days Grant, we will be able to provide extended summer learning for the students. And this grant required that we added 8 instructional days to the current academic calendar. So we are proposing to the board to consider a calendar that now includes 175 instructional days, with 22 days in the summer for reading and math interventions. Of course, meals are going to be provided to students, breakfast, lunch, and dinner as well. Now, I want to make a point of clarification here. By adding those 8 instructional days, we are not adding days to the teacher's contract. They will still receive a contract with 187 days as they currently have. What we're doing differently is that we are redistributing the days that we use for professional development or teacher work days, or what was the third category? Getting more. Huh? Wellness days, right? But those were not included in the days. Okay. So we are just redistributing the days. And so, but the teachers will not have a single day added to the contract. It is the same days, we're just maximizing instructional days instead, which I think is an awesome thing. Again, our students need more instruction, not less. Parents and community partnerships are super critical to the health of the schools, the community, the district. And we have to recapture our parents and our community members. So we intend to build strong partnerships through different programs and initiatives, and figuring out how do we bring our families back into the schools as partners in the education of our students. We provided a survey for the community to provide feedback. We heard from some members of the community, and their suggestions were considered when we were developing the plan, and we thank them for that. We also provided a survey for the academic calendars, which you are going to be receiving in a few moments. But as I always say, it's going to take all of us to make this work. School improvement needs to happen in Kingsville ISD. School improvement is a change that is not only necessary, but it's urgent. And it is something that will drive the district to higher levels of excellence. At the end of the day, I continue to say this, and I will say this, after a 32-year career in education, our students are the priority. And so we are going to make decisions that are student-centered and that are always informed and based on what is best for students. That is the presentation, subject to your questions, board members.
Are there any questions from the board? If there's no questions. Some questions?
I had a question.
Okay.
Do y'all have like a timeline on this to see the improvement?
Mr.
Like,
President.
is it 1 year?
I'm sorry, sir, one moment, just a point of order here. Mr. President, we actually don't have an open hearing with the audience.
Oh, okay.
You can allow someone to come up and speak if you like on a short public participation moment, but we don't have a Q&A on the agenda before the audience.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, like, is there gonna be like 2 years from now, we're gonna see this increase?
Sir, we actually don't have on the agenda to recognize speakers from the community.
Well, I just wondered if there was some kind of an idea.
Yes, sir. I encourage you to follow up with the superintendent. She can address your concern.
That's what I was wondering. I mean, I didn't expect you to have, okay, it's gonna take 2 years and 5 months.
Thank you,
I
sir.
just wondered if the plan was there.
Any more questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, we move on to item number 5C, implementation of RIF policy, DFFB local for school year 26-27. Dr. Guzman.
Good evening again, board president and board members and members of the community. What we are proposing to the board today is to implement the RIF policy DFFB for school year 26-27. This will allow a programmatic change in order to implement the ACE initiative at all elementary campuses, beginning with contracts issued for the year 26-27. Approval of this action will allow the administration to initiate RIF proceedings. As a result, as stated in the previous presentation, all elementary teachers, administrators, and support staff will also be required to reapply and interview for their current positions and meet the established teacher effectiveness levels and administrator effectiveness levels as applicable. In addition, all district campus administrators, that is principals and assistant principals at the secondary level, will also be required to reapply for their positions and meet the established administrator effectiveness levels. Subject to your questions.
Dr. Martinez, as we move forward with this, and with the elementary teachers, and we talked about this before, but we're looking at a committee of campus administrators along with central office administrators on the interviews for the teachers, which will then be based on data, and then campus principal recommendation.
That is correct, sir. It will be by committee. There will be a very specific rubric that will be established, and all employees that participate in this experience will be rated according to that rubric, which includes all the areas that are in policy and that were highlighted in the plan that was presented. Yes, and in addition to that, I would say, and thank you for that question, I know the teachers, the administrators have been waiting to hear more about how would this work and what is the timeline and when do we hear from this and when decisions are made, etc. We will be, based on the decisions that are made tonight, we will be communicating no later than this Friday, the information to all the teachers. We will be going to each campus to have more personable conversations where we are able to answer questions and address needs on what the process will look like. But we will start the process right away should this be approved by the board tonight.
Do we have any other questions from the board? Hearing none, we move on to item 5D, KCOS facility lease. Dr. Peter Pitts can be found on page 37.
Which one is it? I get it front here. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Board President. Thank you, Board President, Superintendent, members of the board. We currently have a lease with K-Cost Head Start at Clayburg Elementary, and that lease expires at the end of this year. That lease is for $11,775, and you can see right now where that cost was derived. That was for Clayburg starting in 2022. You see the breakdown from all the total occupational costs from electricity, maintenance cost, water, trash, one custodian, natural gas, and then also the non-occupational cost as well too, totaling $11,775. They have expressed interest, if they are not allowed to occupy Clayburg, to lease Harrell Elementary from us. We did put projected costs there. You see the projected costs for Harrell for 26, 27. Total occupational costs are $10,200. The non-occupational costs are ones that we would have to pay anyway, whether somebody was occupying the building or not. For instance, building insurance, flood insurance, appraisal, tax collection, that's $5,475. The district administration is recommending that if the board were to consider leasing Harrell Elementary to K-Cost, that it would be for the occupational costs. That's the minimum that we need to break even, to make sure we at least cover our expenses for someone leasing the building. I'll take any questions that the board has.
Why is there such a difference in the occupational cost? For example, electricity, why from $2,550 to $4,000?
A couple of reasons. Number one, at Clayburg right now, they are not using the outlying buildings. And then also we are able to get more accurate data instead of just an estimate now of how much that facility will cost. The maintenance cost that has gone up a little bit, and again, that's based on currently what we project that we will have to fix each month based on that building being used, based on what it wasn't being used. Water, trash, again, just more accurate estimates. The custodian costs, our custodian, all of our salaries the monthly salaries have increased significantly over the last several years. So
the electricity was the biggest, and then what's the appraisal tax collection?
So we have to, for all of our district, we collect taxes based on, we do two things. Number one, we pay the appraisal district. And number two, we have tax collection that we have to pay for to collect taxes from every entity in our school district.
You're passing along the appraisal district fee, basically.
We're not proposing that. We did on the last lease, but we're not proposing on this lease. On this lease, we're proposing only the actual occupational costs, only that $10,200. Those are the only ones that we're projecting. That will at least allow us to break even with how much it'll cost to occupy that building.
Thank you.
So this would be the monthly cost, the monthly lease. And K-Cost, they came tonight too. If you have any questions about their program, they're happy to speak to you. If you would.
Is there any questions from the board for K-Cost or Dr. Pitts anymore? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Dr. Pitts.
Thank you.
We now move on to item 5E, overview of district assessments. Ms. Tanya Williams can be found on pages 38 to 40 of your board packet.
It's not the presentation.
What?
It's not the presentation.
Okay.
Good evening, Board President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Martinez. So in your packet, you do have a one-pager front and back. The purpose of that one-pager was we felt the need to make the board aware of all of the assessments that are conducted within the district. The purpose of the assessments, whether they're required or optional, if parents have the option to opt out, and the timeframes in which the assessments are given to our students. So at this time, if y'all have any questions about any of those assessments, I will be happy to clarify any of those questions that you may have.
This is a list of the current assessments, correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
In the school improvement plan, there are some additionals. There's the beginning of the year, end of the year, middle of the year. Are these going to be implemented more frequently, or are those additional assessments?
It would be an additional assessment. It would be NWEA MAP, and that would be implemented at beginning of year, middle of year, and end of year.
So some of these might go away.
No. That would be a conversation that we would have to see if it would replace any of them. However, several of these tests are state mandated. And so we do have to report these to the state. For example, Circle with pre-K, that is something that we have to submit to the state, as well as Amplify M-Class and that progress monitoring for our kinder. And so those tests we would not be able to eliminate. But to answer your question, yes, it would be an additional test with NWEA MAP at beginning of year, middle of year, and end of year.
And actually, it's listed there in like the second page that it's currently being done, but only in the 7th grade, correct?
Correct. We currently use NWEA MAP for 7th grade Texas Middle School Fluency Assessment. And what that test does is any student who was unsuccessful in 6th grade ELA, they are tested at beginning of year, middle of year, and end of year to see if there's any progress within their reading, fluency, and comprehension. Yes, sir. Any further questions from the board?
Question, board? No? All right, thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
We now move on to item 5F, attendance policy, DEC local, leaves and absences. Dr. Luz Martinez can be found on pages 41 and 48 of your board packet.
Good evening again. What I'm bringing to your consideration tonight is the first read of DEC local. We are proposing substantial modifications to the district's employee attendance requirements as outlined in this policy. Specifically, we are asking the board to consider to eliminate discretionary use of state personal leave shall not exceed 5 consecutive days. We would like for the policy to consider including in deciding whether to approve or deny a request for discretionary use of state personal leave and or local leave, the supervisor shall not seek or consider the reasons for which an employee requests to use leave. The supervisor shall, however, consider the duration of the requested absence in conjunction with the employee's absence from the educational program and district operations, as well as the availability of substitutes. Supervisors may also deny leave on days when there are already other absences that will impact the quality of instruction in the school. An employee must get approval to take any number of leave days regardless of type. Employees in a school are considered to be staff members of the school, must get approval from the school principal or designated administrator at the campus and or district level. All other employees must receive approval to take leave from their immediate supervisor, and failure to receive approval from the principal or supervisor may result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. Employees must request leave at least 2 weeks in advance or as soon as possible. Failure to give adequate notice may impact whether the leave request is granted. In the event a request cannot be made prior to the person having to take leave, such as in the case of an unexpected illness or unforeseen emergency, the employee must make every effort to inform the principal or director as soon as possible via phone or email. Discretionary use of state personal leave and or local leave may not exceed 2 consecutive workdays. Principals and supervisors are not authorized to approve requests exceeding 2 consecutive workdays. Any requests for personal and or local leave beyond 2 consecutive workdays must be submitted in writing and approved by the designated supervisor and a member of the executive leadership team. Employees assigned to instructional or leadership positions at the campus level must obtain approval from the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction or designee for any request exceeding 2 consecutive days. Discretionary use of leave shall not be permitted for employees who have exhausted state and/or local leave days. Employees may take advantage of specific types of leave for which they are eligible as outlined in policy DEC local and DEC legal, such as family medical leave, military leave, and temporary disability leave. Employees who qualify under the Americans with Disabilities Act or ADA may receive additional time off if needed, if deemed reasonable accommodation in compliance with the ADA. The district will not allow dock days for exempt employees who have exhausted state and local leave and are absent beyond their allocation except as permitted by district board policy. An employee who is absent beyond their allocated number of days will be subject to disciplinary action up to and including dismissal. A dock day is when an employee is denied pay because the employee does not have sufficient leave time to cover an absence. Regardless of the amount of leave in an employee's leave bank, no employee may be absent for more than 15 days of leave per fiscal year, July 1st through July 30th, except as otherwise provided in policy. Employees who have not yet accrued 15 days may not use unpaid leave days and shall be subject to involuntary reassignment and or disciplinary action up to and including termination once they exhaust all paid leave days. And furthermore, applicable to campus employees, discretionary use of leave, including vacation days, shall not be permitted during or on the first week of the first semester and the first week of second semester, the day before or after a school holiday, scheduled days for end of semester or end of year exams, major days, scheduled exams, major district scheduled exams such as district benchmarks, etc. Days scheduled for state mandated assessment, as well as professional development days to include in-service and the beginning of the school year and during all scheduled professional development days throughout the school year.
Do you have any questions from the board?
I have 3 concerns. The first one that talks about, my first concern that talks about employees must request at least 2 weeks in advance or as soon as possible. Is that, you're talking about state personally, that they need? Discretionary? Okay.
Yes, sir.
In my opinion, 2 weeks is too long. I would say a week in advance. And the second concern I have is discretionary use of state personal leave and or local leave may not exceed 2 consecutive days. That's fine, but why would the employee have to get it approved by upper administration when they have a principal or supervisor at that campus that can make that decision? I feel that you all have enough work and having to approve other employees that want to take 2 consecutive days. I feel that that needs to be left at the supervisor or the principal or whoever is in charge of that employee. And then my last concern, where it talks about no employee may be absent for more than 15 days of leave per fiscal year. And where it talks about if that happens, that there could be, I guess, a reprimand. In my opinion, the leave is the employee's earning. In other words, we give them 5 days, the state gives them 5 days, that's their leave. And for us to cap it at 15, that's all you can take. I understand we have employees that would like to be off on a Friday or a Monday. If that's a pattern, then the supervisor needs to be on top of that and deal with that situation. You know, us trying to, and I don't want to say this in a defensive way, but kind of micromanaging a little bit. That's the way I feel that this policy is. And I understand we need the teachers in the classroom. We need the staff there. I understand it completely to be a successful district. But we also need to keep the employees in mind. They work hard. And, you know, if there's a pattern, let the principal or let the supervisor, whoever's in charge of that employee, you know, take care of that. Now, if they don't, then that's when upper administration can have a conversation with that supervisor. What's going on? You know, this employee, you know, whatever the conversation may be. Those are just my 3 concerns. I do agree with when they can take the leave. That was taken away a couple of years ago, but I'm glad it's back now. Before and after a test, before, you know, holiday. That I agree with. But those are just my 3 concerns on this policy.
Jake, I have a question for you. Can you clarify what you meant by 2 weeks? Is too long? Which way is too long?
In other words, if I want to take, the way I read it is, if I want to take a personal day, I need to let my supervisor know 2 weeks ahead of that. In other words, if I want to me, that's too long. A week, maybe, yes. And I think that's the way it is right now, policy. You have to let them know a week, your supervisor, a week before you're going to take a personal day. You know, if you want to go, you know, just take a personal day. 2 weeks to me is too far, you know, too far ahead or behind.
Anyone else?
Yes, I've got 2. It talks about docked days. The district will not allow docked days for exempt employees who have exhausted state and local leave and are absent beyond their allocation, except as permitted by district board policy. I just like to see whatever policy that is inserted there, so they be clear. Whatever policy covers docked days, like in the paragraph before, it references DEC or local, or that's one clarification I'd like. The second is back to the area where Mr. Pettis was talking, can't be absent for more than 15 days of leave per fiscal year. I don't think July 1st through June 30 is our fiscal year. And so we just need to, it's just a ministerial change that needs to be changed to what our actual fiscal year is.
Mr. Menendez,
Yeah, I'm looking at this, and I'm assuming that studies, y'all did do studies, you did see where we had people out longer than they should have been, or maybe not brought in a doctor's excuse. So in other words, until now, in the past, we didn't have people submitting the proper documentation, just being approved and going. Is it? I'm pretty sure that y'all did do a study on this as far as days, people running out of days, bank days. So I can see, you know, where we need to get back into this. But again, you know, kids that have having subs for throughout the year, it hurts us too. So just to be sure that you know, we're having to do this. You know, now, you know, looking at the last few years of what's been happening. But as long as we, you know, it seems like we're just bringing back and implementing what's been in policy with a few changes, or should have been implemented, is what I'm looking at.
I'm adding to Menelis's comment. Are you talking about, because right now I know, because I used to work for the district, if you're going to be out, you go to ASOP and input your absence. You don't have to call your supervisor or a principal. Now they're going to have, the employees will have to do that. Is that what that part says? Okay. That's good to me. That's good practice.
So the campus then, well, campus administration will set up a time, unless it's an emergency, but they will set up a time that they'll be taking calls, you know, like when we had to take calls, it was 5:30 in the morning to a certain time, to give us time to get it. I guess that's gonna be based on each campus as to what time they'll be calling in, unless it's an emergency.
Right, I appreciate the comments and the clarification. Principals always have that discretionary authority to say to their staff, you know, text me. And if I have a question or a concern, I will call you, or email me. And I check my emails all the time. So most people prefer a call, right? Because they want to make sure that they have the opportunity to ask questions about, did you leave a lesson plan? Is there something that I need to prepare for? Or what are some specific items that I need to ensure that get done or taken care of, right? So that's always helpful for the principals who have to then decide if there are no stops, what do I do? Or how do I ensure that learning continues in the absence of the teacher of record?
And I'm just throwing out there just from the past, what we had to do is, you had your community leaders in the elementary had plans in case somebody had an emergency. Then at the secondary level, usually your department heads that had plans also to fill in case of emergencies, so where they could, just in case there weren't there, they would provide them.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you very much. We now move on to item 5G, the 26-27 KISD instructional calendar options, Ms. Tanya Williams. It can be found on pages 49 to 52 of your board packet. Ms. Williams.
My apologies. He's getting the presentation set up.
Once again, good evening, Board President, Mr. Ruiz, Superintendent, Dr. Martinez, members of the board. What we will be reviewing today are the 3 draft instructional calendars that were created based off of stakeholder feedback on the survey and based off of constraints that we had taken to DEIC. So last board meeting, we had approached the board and asked for some constraints to be made in order for us to build these drafts. We were then asked to take that to DEIC and get their ideas on which constraints in reference to holidays, start times, things of that nature. We did go ahead and take that back to our DEIC. We created a feedback survey that was sent out to our stakeholders. I was very pleased on the responses that we got. We did receive 191 responses on our survey. So very, very pleased with the participation, not only from our staff, but also from our community and our students. And then based off of that feedback, we went ahead and built 3 draft calendars or proposed calendars for you to review today. So what we are asking today is to look at the 3 drafts that we have created and asking for the board to select 2 of those to be then surveyed out to our stakeholders. We will then bring back those survey results on February 17th at our next regular board meeting. On option 1, calendar 1, we have a teacher start date, as Dr. Martinez did state. Let me back up a little bit here. All 3 drafts are 175 instructional days, and they all have 187 contracted days for the teachers to work, as well as 22 additional days, school year days, starting in June. So for option one, we have a teacher start date of July 29th, with students coming back that second week of August, August the 10th. There are 4 teacher workdays embedded within the calendar, 8 professional development days. The student's last day would be May 20th, and the teacher's last day would be May 21st. Looking at option 2, we have a teacher start date of July 27th, a student start date of August 3rd, the first week of August. Teacher work days, 5 embedded within the calendar, 7 professional development days. Students will end on May 20th and teachers on May 21st. For option 3, I would like to make a notation on January 4th. That should be coded as a teacher work day. So just please note that correction instead of a professional development day. So on option 3, we are looking at a teacher start date of July 30th, a student start date of August the 10th, 5 teacher work days embedded within the calendar, 7 professional development days, a student end date of May 21st, and a teacher end date of May 24th. On this slide, you will see a comparison of all 3 calendar options and the changes within each of those 3 options in reference to teacher start date, student start date, teacher work days, professional development days, student end dates, and teacher end dates. Yes.
So this is, I couldn't find this on the calendar, but you would think with an August 3rd start date, the ending would be a little, well, a week difference. Where did that week or those 5 days go? That I can't seem to find.
Yes, we either have them front-loaded in the beginning. We did want to keep the start date the same. The reasoning behind that is we wanted to give the teachers and the students a little bit of a breather before we start the additional school days. So if we added those days towards the end, they wouldn't get any break prior to either starting summer school or the additional day school year. So those had to be tacked on to the beginning. And then a few other areas in which we did change were holidays that were given. There is on option, give me a second here. On option 2, you will notice that there is a holiday on November the 13th. And so that is a holiday that we had to put in order to not exceed the 175 instructional school days and not to exceed the 187 teacher work days. So as Dr. Martinez stated, those were the days that we kind of had to maneuver within the calendar in reference to holidays, teacher work days, and professional development days.
And when did you say the surveys where we're going to start again for the teachers? When are they going to be able to?
So once this conversation is had and we make a decision of either surveying 2 that the board chooses to survey out, we will develop the survey. We will survey it out by the end of this week. They will be given roughly about 2 weeks, and we will bring the results back to you on the 17th to decide which calendar has received the most votes.
Maybe I missed this, but are you also surveying parents?
Correct. It will be, yes, sir. It will be just like the previous survey that we did, so it will be available to all stakeholders. Yes, sir.
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
As a board member, I don't feel that I need to make a decision on which 2 of those calendars to pick. To me, those 3 are fine, and DEIC said they were good. Now, I know we need to take them, to the survey. Can we not just put all 3 out there instead of 2 that we need to?
Yes, sir, most definitely. We can survey all 3 if that is what the board wishes to do.
Because I don't feel that, and this is just me again, as a board member, I need to tell you which 2 calendars we need for the teachers to vote on or whatever the situation may be. You got 3 good calendars there. Can we just vote on all 3? I don't know.
Yes, sir. That is most definitely an option if we wish to do so.
Do you have any other questions for Ms. Williams?
I want to appreciate that we brought this early this year, and we're not making any last minute decisions like we have. And it gives us time, gives the parents, teachers, and everybody involved the opportunity to really sit down and look at it and then cast a vote. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And we move on to item 5H, Blue Bonnet Learning Secondary Math for Algebra 2 and Geometry. Ms. Jennifer Flowers and Dr. Hilda Arnold.
Good evening, Board President Reese, Dr. Martinez, and board members. The Curriculum and Instruction Department will be presenting Blue Bonnet Learning for Secondary Math program for your consideration. The Instructional Materials Review and Approval, also known as IMRA, outlines how instructional materials will be reviewed with the State Board of Education having the final authority on the process, criteria used, and approvals. The IMRA reviews the TEKS, and they also review the English Language Proficiency Standards, the alignment of the curriculum, the suitability, compliance, parental portal requirements as well. If you notice on the next two slides, you will notice that the Blue Bonnet Algebra 2, which is what we're asking for your consideration, and the Blue Bonnet Geometry, they both are approved by the State Board of Education. They're also both recommended by the commissioner and also are 100% aligned with the TEKS. So both the Blue Bonnet Algebra 2 and the Blue Bonnet Geometry have these similar items that they're similar. And now we'll have Ms. Flowers review the rubric for the IMRA.
Good evening. The IMRA rubric for the Blue Bonnet Secondary Math went over 6 different stipulations. So the implementation quality, so how is it supporting our teachers in implementing this new curriculum? Progress monitoring, what types of supports are they giving teachers to monitor students' progress throughout the unit, module, lessons? Supports for all learners, so there's embedded supports for differentiation within the curriculum. These last ones are 4, 5, and 6 are all related to the research-based instructional strategies for math. So the depth and coherence of key concepts, that's something they looked at just to make sure that this is meeting that rigor that we're expecting from high-quality instructional material. The balance of conceptual and procedural, especially in mathematics, we don't want just procedural knowledge. We want the students to understand the concept behind it, so there's that balance. And then lastly, that productive struggle. So are we allowing the students time to struggle productively when they're doing some individual learning? And as you can see, both Algebra 2 and Geometry got 100% on the rubric in all 6 of these areas. These are some of the resources that would come with the curriculum if we were to implement. So there's program level resources that are going to be Blue Bonnet resources, more in general. There are things that sometimes we would use on our end to help support teachers in their implementation. The course level documents are going to be specific to the course. Algebra 2 is going to have its own, and Geometry will also have its own. So TEKS summary, standards overview, pacing guides, year at a glance, things that the teachers are going to actually use to implement this curriculum. One of the things I like about the Blue Bonnet is the family guides. They come in English and Spanish, and they are meant to be sent home so that parents can help and also understand what their kids are learning in school. One of the other things I want to draw your attention to is the resources for teachers are going to include lesson internalization protocols, as well as student work analysis protocols. So how are we internalizing this material? Again, we're switching from that what to teach. Teachers aren't having to source material anymore, but they're learning how to teach. this specific content. And then our student work analysis protocol. So we're going to take what our students are doing and we're going to go over it and we're going to analyze it and see what we need to do to improve. We do have a couple resources. These are all, let me check my link here. So you can see these are all of the things that we have already downloaded from Bluebonnet. These are open education resources. They're available to the public. Again, this is just an example of what we can expect with this type of curriculum. So assessment reflections, the ELP summary, which are going to be those English language proficiency standards, family guides in both English and Spanish that can be sent home for that parent and community engagement. Materials list for teachers when they're gathering their materials for the lesson, it's going to be specified for them. So I'm doing module 4, topic 1, lesson 5. I'm going to know exactly what I need to pull prior to that lesson. So again, they're not trying to figure out on the fly what they need to gather. Everything is laid out for them. And this is pretty typical. And I know we've done the Bluebonnet RLA, the Bluebonnet math for the lower levels. And we've gone over those materials in depth with you. So all of these program implementation guides and things of that nature are going to come with the Bluebonnet suite for all of our courses. And any questions from the board?
One of the previous slides, there was number 6. That had something to do with that material support the students applying disciplinary practice. So it's.
Miguel, can you speak in the mic, sir? I'm interested in your question.
Well, the productive struggle, it's gonna kind of force them to problem solve. Is that what it is?
Yes, so they're going to have time within the lessons to work independently, and these lessons are meant to build on the difficulty of the question. So as the students are sitting there, they're not just sitting there doing nothing, struggling. They're productively struggling. And again, this is one of the research-based instructional strategies specifically for math, to make sure that our students are going through that process, understanding that conceptuality of the problem, and then working through it. I mean, we've kind of lost a little bit of that where the students are like, oh, I can't do it. So, yes, this is exactly. So this is meant to encourage them to go through that productive struggle process, or, as we've called it before, that like engineering mentality of, okay, this didn't work. What do I need to do now to fix it?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the board? All right, if none, thank you, Ms. Flowers and Dr. Arnold.
Thank you.
We now move on to item number 6. The Kingsville Independent School District will now conduct a special meeting. The time is 8:05 p.m. We move on to item 6A, communication from administration superintendent's update. Dr. Luz Martinez.
So, first of all, I would like to thank everyone who braved the storm last week. Incredible that we had such weather last week, right? But as you know, Monday we closed to ensure the safety of parents, students, and I think it was a good decision, make sure that everybody was warm and safe at home. Tuesday, we had a late start, and we had really good attendance, better than I expected. Wednesday, we had a regular day, but I want to thank the teachers because they show up. They did come, and we had very, very little absences from the part of our teachers on Tuesday and Wednesday. Even though Thursday and Friday we were off with the stock show, which, by the way, I would like to congratulate all the students who won awards and participated and had fun. That was really, really, really cool. But going back to the weather days, I also would like to thank the custodials, the transportation staff, the food services, literally everybody came together and made things happen for kids and for teachers, ensuring that buildings were safe and well kept, were warm. We had staff showing up very early in the morning, making sure that electricity was working. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to Dr. Pitts and the team who really put a lot of time and effort into ensuring that. I would also like to remind everyone, if I get my phone to work, that our district and campus federal report cards and school report cards have been released and they are now posted on our website. This is a required posting that we have to have. To access them, please visit our district website, select the About Us section, click on accountability, and the reports are available there for review. If you need support, please call us and we will be more than happy to assist you with those. Last but not least, based on what the board decides tonight, I would like to encourage all teachers, staff, community members, parents, students to take the survey for the instructional days calendar and give us good feedback in terms of what is the preference, and we will present that to the board at our next board meeting for their consideration and action. That is all for administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Martinez. Any questions for Dr. Martinez? Okay, hearing none. We now move on to item 6B, discussion and possible action for K through 5 reading, language arts, RLA, Blue Bonnet curriculum. Ms. Flowers and Dr. Arnold can be found on page 55 of your packet.
Good evening. Good evening, Board President Reese, Dr. Martinez, and board members. The KISD Curriculum and Instruction Department presented an overview of the Blue Bonnet Learning RLA instructional materials and the benefits of implementation during the board workshop on January 13th. Administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the adoption of the Blue Bonnet Reading Language Arts instructional materials as presented for the 2026-2027 school year.
Do I hear a motion to accept the administration's recommendation? Motion made by Delma Salinas, second. Second made by Jake Perez. By roll call vote, or by call your name, please say yes or no. Joe Mireles,
Yes.
Brian Kufal,
Yes.
Martin Chapa,
Yes.
David Garcia,
Yes.
Delma Salinas,
Yes.
Jacob Perez,
Yes.
and Joseph Reese, yes. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, board members.
We now move on to item 6C, discussion and possible action regarding the Blue Bonnet Learning secondary math for Algebra 2 and Geometry. Ms. Flowers again, and Dr. Arnold.
Good evening, Board President Ruiz, Dr. Martinez, members of the board. As discussed in tonight's workshop, the district is seeking board approval for adoption of the Blue Bonnet Learning secondary math curriculum for Algebra 2 and Geometry. The administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the adoption of the Blue Bonnet Learning secondary mathematics instructional materials as presented for the 2026-2027 school year.
So do we have a motion to accept administration's recommendation for Blue Bonnet Learning secondary math?
So
Motion made by David Garcia,
I'll second.
second by Delma Salinas. By roll call vote, please answer yes or no. Joe Mireles,
yes.
Brian Kufal,
Yes.
Martin Chapa,
Yes.
David Garcia,
Yes.
Delma Salinas,
Yes.
Jacob Perez,
Yes.
and Joseph Reese, yes. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Flowers, Dr. Arnold. We now move on to item 6D, discussion and possible action regarding school improvement plan. Dr. Martinez.
Point of clarification, board members, the request for your consideration and approval of the school improvement plan includes within it the RIF policy as stated in the previous presentation.
Quick question, so we won't need a, since it's a policy, we don't need a second reading?
No, because the RIF,
Because it's part of the,
the RIF policy is not changing, it's just the approval to declare the RIF for program change for the ACE program. Yes, sir.
thank you.
Is that correct, legal?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve the school improvement plan to include the, along with the RIF policy? Is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Motion made by Martin Chapa,
Second.
second made by Brian Kufal. Okay, by roll call vote, Joe Mireles,
Yes.
Brian Kufal,
Yes.
Martin Chapa,
Yes.
David Garcia,
Yes.
Delma Salinas,
Yes.
Jacob Perez,
Yes,
and Joseph Reese, yes. The motion passes, the vote is 7-0. We now move on to item 6E, discussion and possible action regarding the memorandum of understanding between the Community Action Corporation of South Texas, KCOS, and Kingsville ISD for the facility lease of Harrell Elementary School main building, portables, and fenced grounds. Dr. Pitts.
Thank you, President Reese. The administration recommends that the board approve the memorandum of understanding between the Community Action Corporation of South Texas and KISD for the facility lease of the Harrell Elementary School main building, portables, and fence grounds for June the 1st, 2026 to May the 31st, 2027.
So do I have a motion to accept administration's recommendation for the memorandum of understanding between KCOS and Kingsville ISD?
so moved.
Motion made by Jake Perez,
Second.
second made by Joe Mireles. By roll call vote, Joe Mireles,
Yes.
Brian Kufal,
Yes.
Martin Chapa,
Yes.
David Garcia,
Yes.
Delma Salinas,
Yes.
Jacob Perez,
Yes,
and Joseph Reese, yes. Let the record show the motion carries 7-0. We now move on to item 6F, discussion and possible action regarding the first reading of DEC local leaves and absences. Ms. Ada Nava and Dr. Luz Martinez.
Good evening, Board President Reese and Dr. Martinez and board members. We are proposing the first reading of the DEC local, and administration recommends that the Board of Trustees add, revise, or delete DEC local policy as recommended by administration, this serving as the first reading.
I have one question. So for our legal, so this being our first reading, I know that several board members had recommendations. Would it be, when the second reading comes, could potentially come with considered revisions? Is that how it would work, Mr. Maddox?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the Board of Trustees. So you may submit a motion for consideration that already includes the changes as you see fit, or we could move to approve as presented with the expectation of options at reading number 2.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve the first reading of the DEC local leaves and absences with the option for recommendations from the board in reading number 2?
So moved.
Okay, motion made by David Garcia,
second.
second by Jake Perez. By roll call vote, Joe Mireles,
Yes.
Brian Kufal,
Yes.
Martin Chapa,
Yes.
David Garcia,
Yes.
Delma Salinas,
Yes.
Jacob Perez,
Yes.
and Joseph Reese, yes. And let the record show, the motion carries 7-0. We now on item 6G, discussion and possible action regarding the resolution to permit or not to permit the district to provide a period of prayer and reading of the Bible or other religious texts on each school day. Ms. Ada Nam.
If you recall, this is the second time we bring this to the board. We did this initially a month ago. So the administration at this time recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the resolution to not permit the district to provide a period of prayer or reading of the Bible or other religious texts on the school day.
Before we do that, if we could have Dr. Martinez just provide some clarity for our board and community and also our viewers at home.
Yes, thank you, Board President and members of the board. So I want to reiterate that Kingsville ISD already accommodates prayer in schools. So we are not by any means saying that we are not providing that accommodation. What we are saying is that any concerns that students may have in regards of their choice to engage in prayer during the day will be brought to the attention of the administration at the respective schools, and they will make the necessary accommodations. We encourage prayer, we encourage, religion and freedom, and the decision on our students and our parents to do as they see appropriate. We don't want certainly to force any student to pray or engage in prayer during any specific time of the day, but when they choose to do so on a personal basis. So we already allow that in our schools as well.
So do I have a motion?
Mr. President, could we have either our attorney or someone, I think if the resolution is actually read, it will add some clarity also.
Thank you.
Would you like me to read it?
Sure, please.
Resolution regarding Senate Bill 11, period of prayer and reading of the Bible or other religious texts. Whereas Section 25.0823 of the Texas Education Code allows the school board to designate time each school day at every campus for students and employees to pray and read the Bible or other religious texts. Whereas Senate Bill 11 passed by the 89th Texas Legislature requires within 6 months of the effective date, March the 1st, 2026, each district's board must take a record vote either to establish a period of prayer and reading of the Bible or other religious texts by adopting the resolution set out in the new statute, or decline to establish the period of prayer or reading of the Bible and other religious texts under Education Code Chapter 25. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of Kingsville Independent School District will not adopt a policy to establish the period of prayer and reading of the Bible or other religious texts under Education Code Chapter 25.
I make a motion that we adopt the recommendation and the resolution that we will not adopt a policy to establish the period of prayer.
So motion made by Brian Kufal to not permit the district to provide a period of prayer. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Delma Salinas. So by roll call vote, Joe Mireles,
Yes.
Brian Kufal,
Yes.
Martin Chapa,
Yes.
David Garcia.
Before I vote, I would like to just say that I wish we could add something to that says, as time is already given to the students for prayer.
On the resolution?
On the resolution. As to show that we are already providing that. Because I see this will not adopt a policy. It just says it cuts it off completely in this. I would like to say, will not adopt a policy, that's fine, as as the school district already allows us to, allow the students to do that. Legal, I don't know, that's something we can do.
Sir, the original movement would have to amend the motion to
Move
include
that we
the
amend the motion in the resolution to add, at the bottom, as, or due to accommodations already being made for students on an individual basis.
Thank you.
And we can list the policy because we do have it in policy already.
Okay, so you amended, do you second it, Delma? Yes, okay. So now we go back to, we have a motion and a second to approve, not to permit the district provide a period of prayer as it already has a policy that allows on an individual basis. So by roll call vote, Joe Mireles,
Yes.
Ryan Kufal,
Yes.
Martin Chapa,
Yes.
David Garcia,
Yes.
Delma Salinas,
Yes.
Jacob Perez,
Yes.
and Joseph Reese, yes. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
We now move on to item 6H, discussion and possible action regarding the 26-27 KISD instructional calendar options. Ms. Tanya Williams.
Good evening, Board President, Superintendent Dr. Martinez, members of the board. So as discussed in the board workshop, district administration has developed 3 draft instructional calendar options based off of the stakeholder survey results and the DEIC, District Educational Improvement Committee feedback. The purpose of this item is to request that the Board of Trustees review the draft calendars and select 2 options for release to stakeholders for additional feedback through a district-wide survey. Administration recommends that the Board of Trustees select 2 calendar options to be released for additional stakeholder feedback through the district-wide survey.
So is there a motion? Actually, as the board is requested to accept all 3 options, calendar options to be surveyed to all stakeholders. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Jacob Perez. Second by Delma Salinas. Okay, by roll call vote, Joe Mireles.
Yes.
Brian Kufal,
Yes.
Martin Chapa,
Yes.
David Garcia,
Yes.
Delma Salinas,
Yes.
Jacob Perez,
Yes.
and Joseph Reese, yes. Let the record show the motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Ms. Williams. There being no further action, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Motion made by Delma, second by Jake. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 8:25 PM.